My guest is a chartered accountant, activist, and former Honorable Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. She has served as Vice President of the World Bank and now sits on the board of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. The bureaucrats know her as Madam Due Process, but the rest of us fondly refer to her as Auntie Oby. Please give a round of applause as we welcome Mrs. Oby Ezekwesili. Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome, madam. Oh. Yes. Yeah, it is not every day that I get to interview a very, very powerful woman. So you see, I'm very, very excited today, madam. You're welcome. And I wouldn't waste any time in going straight to as former Minister of Education, you see the sorry state of our education. What is happening?
I think that fundamentally we missed the opportunity to continue with complete overhaul of the education system. At the time that I was minister, and we looked at all the data that could tell us the state of the education system and sector, I did say to the country that we had a dysfunctionality on our hands, and that when you have a dysfunctionality, you don't throw money at it. What you do is that you set the system right, and then you invest in it.
I'm sure some of us who are interested in the educational sector will want to know one of those dysfunctionalities.
For example, we had a sector where the more that you invested in it, in other words, the more money that you budgeted for it, the less the performance of the children.
Whoa.
So we tracked a budget that had been given to education over a period of, say, a decade. And we found that as the budget was going up, the performance, we'd use the proxy of performance of students in the West Africa certificate examination.
What would be responsible for that kind of anomaly?
So
you put in more money, you get less results.
There are many factors. Yeah. If you're putting in more money in the wrong things, then it's definitely not going to affect the learning outcomes. Well, you know, some things like all kinds of construction things, because those things were the things that offered opportunity for corruption. I call them transactions.
Oh, Nigeria again. Okay, thank you. What was it like serving in a male-dominated cabinet? You know how too much testosterone in the building, too much ego, and I don't know. I've never been in that.
I don't think knowledge has a gender.
Amazing, amazing. I like that. I like it. Somebody please help me know that. Okay, so there were no threat at all.
None. I mean, the fact is you had instances where people did not understand how to relate. Yeah. And then you, as a woman, understanding that you're a professional and that you're at the table on the basis of your knowledge, you didn't have to, in any way, try to underrate yourself or to even give anybody any sense that they could.
Knowing how we are here, didn't your level of education or confidence intimidate a few men?
Actually, I had a particular colleague who later on became the governor of one of the states. Yeah. Every time he saw me, he would say, "Oby, you're intimidating me." and then the Minister of Finance at that time, Minister Adamu Shiroma, that is an elderly friend, he would say to me, "Oby, intimidate him some more."
You're quite intimidating, I must confess. But anyway, recently you started the Red Card Movement. What is the Red Card Movement about?
Oh, I came with my card.
Oh, fantastic.
This is my card.
Okay.
I am saying to the existing political class, game over. Get off the pitch.
Wow. I like that. Game over. It's time to quit, people. We want fresh legs. But, some people will think that this Red Card Movement will make way for some people to remain in power instead. I mean, considering the way our polity is structured, when you have two main gladiators fighting and you say, okay, these two, we don't want you, chances are the one who has the upper hand may win if people decide not to vote.
I actually like that they are thinking that way because they underrate the level of angst amongst the people of Nigeria. these two political parties have failed us for too long, and I don't think that anyone is in any of these, so that one of the same kind of 6.5 dozen would continue to give us poor governance in this society. The time for governance failure is over. What I have said is, even if I were the only one waving my red card at these failed political gladiators, what would happen is the universe will echo over my red card, and something amazing will happen.
Okay. I like that, because one thing I know for sure is that when you start something, you don't back down. I like that. I like that about you. So I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to push this.
Can I show you this one?
Oh, what is that
By
about?
the time we wave this,
yes. Then we'll use this.
Then we use this. So what we're saying
that is your voter's card,
this.
people.
We're saying that my PVC, my red card, because we send these ones off the pitch and we use this to get. Well, okay, really, I think people just need to understand that the idea of the red card movement is we want to change the dominant values that guide the way we are governed, the way we are as a people. We cannot be a society that's built on vice. We must be a society built on healthy values. We must be a society that rewards good behavior and punishes bad behavior. And so what we're saying is, okay, all of you, you have produced dismal outcome in governance. Enough. Let's now get new minds that will position us so that Nigeria can claim the 21st century. Do you think we can?
We can.
This is the
card.
card.
If we do the right things. Okay. Thank you. Recently, you said something that it's a bit controversial, which is that in public offices, if we need to succeed, in this war against corruption, that more women should be, appointed into public offices. And some people are saying, does that mean that women are less likely to be corrupt?
Well, research backs up what I said.
Research,
yes,
throw more light.
For example, it was found, there was this research that was done, and it found that in societies where you had more women in parliament, in societies...
Sorry, I'm not to cut short your research, because I want, as you're citing that research, to remember that there's a certain woman that has been a recurring decimal in this current fight against corruption, who is not around. I don't want to call names. So, and she's a woman.
Okay.
But go ahead.
So see what you've done. You've already made my case. A certain woman. Okay. Meanwhile, if I decided to put the list of men, we would run out of this place immediately, because we know that the dossier of those who have had one thing or the other. So now you want me to go back to my research. I have caught you.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, there's more. It's already exciting, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take a break. We'll be back. Whoa. Yeah. It's still the other news, and we are talking to the very distinguished Mrs. Oby Ezekwesili. Madam, yes, the war against corruption is one of the cardinal agenda of the ruling party. Is the war against corruption succeeding?
It isn't succeeding. It could do much better than it is doing. And the reason is that it has lacked a comprehensiveness. In order to effectively tackle corruption, which is something that we've seen in other societies that once suffered systemic corruption, endemic corruption, you've got to be comprehensive. So there is the general reorientation of society, and that has to be led by the leader, political willingness, political will to really fight corruption, pulls the whole society and says, we must change the climate of tolerance for corruption. So reorientation as the pivot. Okay. And then the pillars of prevention, meaning everything that we can do to prevent the occurrence of corruption. Systemic changes, things that are structural changes. For example, when you liberalize and deregulate certain sectors that are government dominant, they suddenly are in the market space rather than by government officials. You reduce discretion, you reduce corruption. Okay. Prevention. Then sanctions, where when people who fail to be stopped by the preventions that you've put, go ahead and do corruption, they know predictably that they will be sanctioned. And they will be sanctioned on the basis of the rule of law, where no man is above the law. It doesn't matter what party you join.
Okay, fine. Well put. You know, where you see these are on an institutional level. I like the reorientation part, because what makes the reorientation part very effective, it involves the people, and the people that you want to change their orientation towards these things, they are saying that they are more prone to corruption when they are hungry, and you can agree with me that the hunger now is much. So do you think there's any way this reorientation thing will even work? Because a man who is 2 years ago not likely to be corrupt, but considering that he has become more hungry now, is even more prone to corruption.
So that is why just merely fighting corruption is not enough in any society.
Yes.
You've got to have sound economic policies, because the sound economic policies, which are also part of what forms your prevention strategy on corruption, will begin to facilitate growth. And often what we say is that for you to grow well, you must diversify the sources of growth. You must do the kinds of reforms that would enable your citizens. They are the engine of economy.
Small money going into people's hands, basically.
Indeed.
Okay. There's this other one that, in fact, if I don't ask this, I'm sure it won't be complete. And it's about the Bring Back Our Girls. As a board member, somebody who sits on that board.
We don't have a board. It's a citizens movement. We're not even an NGO.
Fantastic.
If you walked into the Unity Fountain tomorrow, you would be a member of BBOG. Fantastic. If you went to the Falamo Roundabout for the Lagos family, you would be a member of BBOG. There's no NGO.
Fantastic. Okay, as one of, the key figures in that movement, that people's movement. And we love that movement, by the way. Okay? Now, there's this argument that in Chibok, at least conservatively, I don't have the right statistics, at least more than 2,000 people would have been taken from that community. People are saying that the emphasis on the Chibok girls alone, don't you think it has kind of endangered that particular number? It has kind of made them high targets, because they took a lot of people from that community. But there's this fixation on the students, the Chibok girls.
No, it would be a faulty way to look at the human life. I'm sorry. Okay. The reason is this. First, let me cast very serious doubt on your 2,000 taken from Chibok community. Okay. The Chibok people have been very good at keeping numbers of people missing amongst them. Number two is that... Any idea of the numbers, at least so that for people who are listening? You can even talk about the Northeast. You don't look at the Northeast.
So that is it's more than 2,000,
suddenly
right? No, just for the purposes of this discussion.
How many people
I need to just have a number.
It must be much more than that. Because the Nigerian military many times told us 3,000 people rescued, 4,000 people rescued, that they never told us were missing.
Yeah.
Remember? So. The only first time that we could truly establish identity of people who were missing and families that said, we're missing our people, was the case of our Chibok girls. Yes. Now, girls go to school and they are removed from their classroom. So our society is supposed to just keep quiet. Let me tell you something. A friend of mine who died last year, Elie Wiesel, he's a Nobel Peace winner, a Nobel Peace winner. Yeah. And Elie said that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. An indifferent society is a society that endangers itself. We cannot possibly have been told, with parents crying about their children, and we face all other issues, majoring in minor, and say to the children, 219 children, that it's their lot to be taken by terrorists. What kind of a society does that?
I totally agree with you. You know, the point I'm trying to bring out is that, if more than 3,000 people were taken from that region, and we kind of dwell on just the girls, does it mean that one life is more important than another life?
We haven't dwelt on just the girls. What you seem to forget is that it was when we began to talk about the girls that for the first time the government began to acknowledge that we had any of our citizens with terrorists. And then they began to escalate the counterinsurgency effort and then began to bring back people.
Now,
so really, we have done much more
now
than
that we are
for
beginning
Chibok
to
girls.
recover some of these girls, why has it been difficult for the local press to be able to, interview them?
You should take your question to the federal government of Nigeria. Our BBOG said, we are committed to these girls who have been given grave injustice being brought back. They have been brought back. They are in school. People like you in the media should insist. You shouldn't always leave things to others. Like a lot of the people in Nigeria say, why haven't they done this? Why haven't they done that? They are you.
All right. You've been very active on social media. Everybody knows that, and you engage.
I used it to tell them that you don't know the difference between a pearl and a bead.
Yeah.
What a shame.
By the way, your Twitter reaction to the edition that we carried you, shows you have a very great sense of humor. We enjoyed reading your tweet here in the
I'm
studio.
usually too serious. People think I don't laugh.
Yeah, because anytime we see you on TV, it's one advocacy, one activism. It's you opening your eyes, and we are thinking, this woman, when you were coming here, I was wondering, I said, which question do I ask today? Okay, but so far it's been very good. Yeah.
But because you're also good.
Yeah, now, thank you so very much. Okay. Now, because you've been active on social media, I know how the social media space is today. Youngsters, no chills, no respect. Don't they anger you sometimes?
No.
Don't you feel insulted sometimes?
No.
When they take you on?
Because you see, their time is a time where part of being creative, part of being innovative and being inventive is really that freedom of expression. The only thing that I don't like is when it goes to the level of becoming totally unruly. Yeah. But if it is...
And they do that a lot.
Yes, but and then I teach. So when I see that, I teach.
Yeah.
But in terms of that liberty to state their mind and to disagree, I love it. Bring it on.
Wow, thank you. And I'm sure the young people will love this. Seeing your level of activism, by the way, I'm one of your fans. I admire your consistency and the fact that you're not afraid. Okay, I like that. I think, our young people, even people like us will feel challenged by some of the things that you've decided to take on. You should be a motivating factor and inspiration for the rest of us to say, look, we need to change this country.
We must change this country, okay?
Yes,
the truth is...
Is there politics in your future? Partisan politics.
I've been sort of trying to, look at my gene to see whether there's any bit of the political gene in me.
Yeah.
The morning I wake up and I find it, I will enter politics.
That's a smart answer. It's been so wonderful talking to you, madam. It's nice to have you in the studio again. Ladies and gentlemen. Whoa. Yeah. Okay.